Surrounded by the Axis forces for over 3 years, the island nation of Malta withheld against the German might. As a tribute to the courage of the island, the sea hunters plunged the depths of the Mediterranean in search of one of her brave defenders. Today, they hunt for a hunter, the minesweeper HMS Eddy, a lost hero of Malta. With over 100 million books in print, Clive Cussler is the Grand Master of shipwreck tales and adventure. Director of the Vancouver Maritime Museum, James Delgado is one of the world's foremost marine archaeologists. With over 20 years diving experience, Mike Fletcher is an internationally renowned dive master. Leading the Econova dive team, John Davis has coordinated shipwreck searches around the globe. Together, they explore the planet's last frontier in search of true adventures with famous shipwrecks. They are the Sea Hunters.
Of all the tales of valor that came out of World War II, the story of Malta is unique. This island nation in the middle of the Mediterranean was a British strategic stronghold, fiercely attacked by the Axis. For over 3 years, the Germans and Italians attempted to cut off Malta's supply lines of food and munitions by planning her waters around the harbors with thousands of mines. Combating this assault were the unsung heroes of the night, the minesweepers. These ships and their courageous crews ventured out night after night into the deadly minefields. Many never returned. Now join with us as we search beneath the waters off the island's coast for a monument to these heroes, the shipwreck of the minesweeper HMS Eddy.
Mediterranean ports have a color of their own. It's as though the buildings have been painted to reflect various shades of Mediterranean sunlight. The water, too, changes color with the changing light. Pale blue and turquoise turn to apricot and deep purple. On land, the orange and ochres at midday become cinnamon and honey with the setting sun. Such beauty makes it difficult to believe that 60 years ago, war cast a shadow over Mediterranean ports. Falling bombs groaned from the sky, and in the harbors, the sea had showered in the blast from underwater mines. A mine is an unseen menace, a psychological torment, a sudden death. During World War II, it was the minesweepers who searched for mines, who sailed into the darkness to sweep and clear the harbors of this unseen terror. One such minesweeper was the gallant HMS Eddy. HMS Eddy was a drifter built by Alexander Hall and Company in Aberdeen, Scotland in 1918. She was a muscle-bound little ship. She had pulled port duty in the United Kingdom until the outbreak of World War II, when she sailed to Malta and was rigged for minesweeping duties in Grand Harbor. She was an unheralded little ship whose claim to glory lay in the dangerous duty she did night after night. On May 26, 1942, Eddy herself hit a mine and sank.
Oh, look at the wreck of one of these foot soldiers. And she's an interesting ship.
Is this it?
Well, yeah, she starts out as a
humble little boat.
Sea hunters James Delgado, Mike Fletcher, and John Davis meet to go over the details of an expedition to Malta in search of the last resting place of HMS Eddy. For the Maltese people, finding this wreck ends another chapter in the story of Malta's heroic involvement in the Second World War. To locate the wreck, the team will work with the Maltese Navy, whose war records provided coordinates where it is believed the Eddy went down. They plan to send to Malta a dive team led by veteran shipwreck hunter Rick Haupt. Once there, he will be assisted by the Maltese diving team Deep 5.
Well, if we can pinpoint this wreck and investigate her, it's going to be a chance to write the last chapter in her story, but also to pay homage to a brave little foot soldier of the sea.
The Sea Hunter dive team, led by Rick Haupt, arrives in this ancient Mediterranean port to meet with Emmy Ferrugia and Mike Cooper of Deep 5 Diving. Because of the depth of the wreck, it is decided that the joint expedition should first make a preparatory dive before diving deep. Emmy and Mike have provided slides of possible locations. It is agreed that the target will be the oil tanker El Faroud, which was scuttled in 1998 in 30 meters or 98 feet of water. The Navy has provided a vessel to help the team find the wreck. Many of the fathers of these Navy men served during the war. Rick's team arrives with the gear. Joining the team is specialist Chris Harvey Clark, marine biologist and stills photographer. Dave Harrison will be the team's dive coordinator. Everett Reddick is a safety and technical diver. Dave Godet is an underwater cameraman. As strange as it may seem, the Maltese Navy still patrols Grand Harbor and its approaches in search of World War II mines. Fishermen still snag their nets on German and Italian mines from the war. Some wash up in beaches. A few are still capable of exploding. The Navy has to recover these mines and detonate them. The Minesweeper Eddy and her crew had one of the most dangerous jobs during the war, sailing from port to sweep a minefield, never knowing if this sweep would be her last. During World War II, German and Italians seeded and reseeded this harbor and its approaches with mines. Each night, Eddy had to sweep the shipping lanes clear. Some nights they sailed to the minefield through a storm of attacking German and Italian dive bombers. Yet they were much less afraid of the bombs they could see than of those hidden beneath the waves. What makes a mine terrifying is that it hides beneath the surface, waiting the way death waits.
One of the greatest threats of the minefield is the psychological effect. Not only is the mine a weapon, the minefield is too. And you don't even have to put the mines in the field in order to dominate the battle space. You simply declare that the mines are there, and now your enemy has to move in with mine hunters and minesweepers in an effort to clear the area and to prove that the mines aren't there. So it's a very effective weapon, particularly in terms of owning the water space.
No matter how many times they had swept a minefield clear, there were always more mines to threaten them because the Germans and Italians were always seeding new ones.
The Mediterranean has been subjected to mining campaigns on numerous occasions in various wars. During World War II, Malta's strategic position made it a prime target for mining. In total, the Germans and Italians laid approximately 55,000 mines in the Mediterranean. While sweeping the harbors and approaches, the British minesweepers were kept constantly at risk.
No Mediterranean port was ever really safe, no matter how many times it had been swept. Convoys regularly entered harbor approaches at their peril. Sailors worried as they steamed to the harbor mouth, knowing full well they were sailing into a minefield. The team is eager to dive for the Eddy, but first, the team will run a preparation dive to test equipment and communications. The team positions the Navy vessel and dive boat for diving the oil tanker El Farood. Dave Harrison, with help from the crew of the search and rescue boat, have secured the safety brace.
Right on it. Straight ahead. That's we're right on the bow.
This preparation dive will allow the team to check out their diving gear and underwater camera equipment, and to coordinate logistics and responsibilities with Emmy, Mike, and the divers of Deep 5.
So we'll go with my...
Both teams come with years of diving experience. They know the value of preparing and planning for each dive. They also know that even a preparation dive to a shipwreck, whether it's deep or shallow, comes with a certain amount of risk.
Okay. Let's take us around once more. Once more around. It's right underneath you. Right? Go. Okay. All right. Watch it.
At the oil tanker's depth of 30 meters or 98 feet, no decompression time is required. Rick will have the Zodiac hurricane boat on standby. It's a safety measure. If anything goes wrong at the bottom, Rick can recover a surfacing diver and get him to the Navy vessel fast. Everett leads the divers across a meadow of seagrass that is lush and penetrating sunlight. They approach a trench carved by an ancient earthquake. They're on their way to a ledge that drops suddenly. Beneath the ledge, lying upright on the bottom, is the oil tanker El Farood. The tanker measures over 109 meters, or 354 feet, bow to stern, and 15.5 meters, almost 51 feet, across the beam. Farood was at anchor in Valletta Harbor when something ignited an accumulation of gases in the hold. The explosion would have sent a fireball raging through the lower decks, and the heat generated from this would have turned the lower decks into a blast oven. All hands abandoned ship, all except 9 men. A few had been killed immediately in the blast. A ball of fire trapped others in the narrow passageways below. The explosion and intense heat boiled paint off the walls and buckled steel. The hull split and filled, and the ship listed. All that anyone could see on the surface was the suffocating smoke and debris from the sudden explosion. Nine men were blasted or burned to death on this ship, and the scorched steel below deck seemed to show the pain from that burning. Everett is about to enter the wreck. Going below, is like entering a dark corner of one's own imagination, where the passage inward gets confused with the scramble of those desperate to survive. Everett continues to swim deeper into the wreck. Apprehension slows the willingness to discover. The main passageway of this oil tanker leads to the crew's quarters. The screams from the past ransack the heart of courage to go forward, to turn the corner into a charred past. What we fear most is what we do not know and what we cannot see. It is not the darkness we fear, it's the danger of what lies ahead. For those on board Minesweepers, it wasn't the dark sea that frightened them. It was the unknown dangers concealed within its depths.
If a mine can be described as a device designed to strike against a ship so as to destroy it, then mine warfare is over 150 years old. In the 1830s, Colonel Samuel Colt, of revolver fame, experimented with electrically exploding moored mines that were remotely detonated. The Russians were the first to use Colt's invention to mine their Baltic harbors during the Crimean War between 1854 to 1856. Later, these mines were used during the American Civil War, but it was not until the invention of a new self-activating firing device that mines truly became the unseen terror that we know today.
Mine warfare became a psychological torment. This newly developed firing device mounted lead horns on the outside of the mine shell. Inside the horns were glass vials containing sulfuric acid, embedded in a mixture of sugar and potassium chlorate. A ship striking a mine broke the glass vial, mixing the acid with the chemicals and producing a flame that ignited the gunpowder. Otto Hertz, a German, improved the firing device in 1868 by filling the glass vial in the lead horns with a bichromate solution. When broken, the solution dropped onto carbon and zinc plates. This formed a battery cell that produced a 1.5 volt current. The electrical current ignited a gun cotton primer charge, and then the main charge.
This type of mine, contact moor mine, is typically the mine that the public and people think of when they think of sea mines, the spherical shape with the switch horns on it. And certainly this would have been the dominant type of mine in the water during the Second World War. It's got 7 switch horns on it. It's half filled with explosive, half air, so it contains its buoyancy, and it will sit a certain preset depth below the surface and wait for a ship to ignite one of the switch horns, which will in fact detonate the mine.
Lieutenant Commander Chris Deere, commanding officer of the Fleet Diving Unit Atlantic for the Canadian Navy, is a mine warfare and diving specialist. He explains a contact mine.
This was the primitive mine detonation switch. The ship has to actually hit the switch horn. You have a fairly low probability of a ship hitting that. So what they want to do is increase the sphere in which a ship was at risk to a mine. They extended these, which took them out 1.5 feet, and put mine switches inside, which would do it. They also put cabling on these and drifted the cable in the water so that they could extend that range of the mine threat.
And this would be the anchor for the mine itself that would actually sit on the seabed?
What this is the sea anchor which will deploy with the mine. They'll be rolled off the back of the ship on these rollers. It will then descend to a certain depth. At a certain depth, in this particular mine, this sinker will break free and spool to the bottom of the ocean, and then anchor the mine at a preset depth below the surface.
The reason why moored mines are dangerous is because they were developed to be set at a predetermined depth and to target a specific type and size of ship. Ships draw so much water. If a mine is set too deep, the ship's going to pass right over it. If the mine is set too close to the surface, then the ship can see it and avoid it. So the way it's done is with a sinker. There's a set weight that pulls the mine down to the required depth below the surface, and there it targets a specific type of ship. Once in position at depth, it presents a lethal threat to any ship passing by that's going to hit it. Mines are an extremely simple weapon, and they're a relatively inexpensive weapon, particularly when you compare the cost of a single mine to the cost of a ship. The Germans certainly discovered this during the Second World War. It's a real winner when you can sink a ship with a weapon that they can't see. You become an enemy that can't be seen.
The danger we cannot see, the terror in the darkness, the horror in the hold of a sunken ship. Risk plays on the mind. It easily turns expectation into apprehension. Expectation and apprehension are what the team begins to feel about the dive to the Minesweeper Eddy. It will be a deep dive, about 55 meters or 180 feet. Decompression diving is always risky. That's why the team needed this preparation dive. It was not only a fascinating dive to a huge wreck, but it also brought together two dive teams to work as one. Diving the oil tanker also afforded the team the opportunity to check out the diving gear and camera equipment. They're ready for the deep dive to HMS Eddy. They're ready to push to the edge for the excitement of discovery. Before making the dive to the Minesweeper Eddy, the team must undergo a physical checkup. Meanwhile, Dave Harrison ensures that the tanks have the proper mixture of nitrox.
We've asked for a 36% mixture. Yes. And 37.5. That's good.
He has calculated the mixture to be 36% oxygen and 64% nitrogen. For the diver's safety, the government of Malta requires all visiting divers to have a medical examination. A diver who has regular checkups is less likely to suffer physical problems during a dive. With their checkup completed, the team plans the dive, 55 meters or 180 feet, to the Minesweeper Eddy. Rick and the team carefully review everyone's responsibility during the dive. And everybody will have a job. They go over dive depth, length of time on the bottom, and the time they require to decompress before surfacing. They take nothing for granted. Those on board the Minesweepers took nothing for granted. They sailed into a minefield with a plan for locating mines and for disarming them. Yet day or night, it was a terrifying adventure. The Minesweepers went into a suspected minefield, unreeling the awkward cables, never knowing what was floating near the bow of the ship. Minesweepers were able to sweep a minefield clear with sweep lines equipped with wire cutters. A minesweeper cut a mine's moor line, and the mine floated to the surface.
There are two types of cutters. The first is called a static cutter. It has a very sharp blade, and it's hydrodynamically designed so that it moves through the water at an angle. As it moves through the water, it snags the mooring cable for the mine. The mine goes into the cutter, and it's cut free. The second type of cutter, the more sophisticated type, is what we call the explosive cutter. This has a small explosive charge in it, so that as the mine sweep moves out, as it grabs the moored mine's cable, the charge sets off a very sharp guillotine knife that slices through the moored mine's cable and once again sends it bobbing to the surface.
With the mine on the surface, gunfire exploded it. So long as a minesweeper did not strike a mine directly, the method was relatively safe. Only the lead ship in a flotilla of sweepers took the calculated risk of steaming the edge of a virgin minefield. Often, it was the Eddy that served as the lead ship during a sweep. Before diving the Eddy, Rick seeks out Joseph Magro, a Canadian citizen living in Valletta. Joe was an apprentice in a machine shop on Grand Harbor during World War II. Joe remembers the constant bombing of the city and the ships in the harbor. He remembers the naval ships and the convoys steaming in and out of port. Joe did a lot of repairs on minesweepers. He remembers them going out day and night to sweep the minefields. He remembers the risk they took and how important it was to the war effort. Had it not been for minesweepers clearing harbors for the reception of supplies and munitions, the underbelly of Europe, and perhaps even the war, may have been lost.
That was February the 16th, 1942. I remember that date quite vividly because I remember my first assignment was to go and work on a destroyer which had just come in, very seriously damaged. And I could still remember the smell of burned bodies. There was a chute right through in the middle of the destroyer, and that was the first exposure, so to speak, of the war that close to me.
Eddy was only about 26 meters or 86 feet long and 5.6 meters or 18 feet 6 inches at the beam. But the role she played during the war was big.
To clear the entrance to the harbor. That was one of the most dangerous and most important, actually, phases of the Battle of Malta. To clear the entrance to the breakwater over there. Things that you don't see, but at the same time, it was so vital.
Joe remembers when the minesweeper Eddy steamed from port and never returned. Tomorrow, the team will deep dive what they believe is the minesweeper Eddy. Deep 5 and the Sea Hunters dive team are ready. Emmy and Mike have the coordinates for the wreck. The divers make last-minute checks on respirators before the dive boats set off for the wreck site.
Okay, there.
War records reported Eddy went down 7 cables off Grand Harbor. 7 cables is over 1,500 meters, or 5,000 feet. On a hydrographic chart, that would place the wreck at a location where Emmy Ferrugia and Mike Cooper reported positive readings from side-scan sonar. The team will dive those coordinates. They sail out of Grand Harbor. Rick is in the Navy vessel which will follow the Deep 5 dive boat to the dive site. He'll coordinate safety procedures from the Navy vessel. They follow the same course Eddy followed when it steamed from port on May 26, 1942. Eddy was sailing to sweep a channel that Italian E-boats mined the night before. The crew may have joked to break the tension of sailing into a minefield, but deep down they were probably terrified. It took courage sailing a minesweeper into an area which has been recently seeded with high explosive mines. It took courage steadily advancing against that unseen terror.
Normally, the crew of a minesweeper is fairly young. They're smaller ships, easier to handle, and so the experience level necessary is less. But then the number of people aboard, because they're smaller, is also less. But the actual seamanship tasks of putting out the minesweeping gear out the back, changing the cutters, monitoring the sweeping operations is fairly intense. So life on a minesweeper was very busy. And when you add the danger of actually being in the minefield, it was a very stressful environment.
Adding to the stress on a minesweeper crew was a new type of mine that the Germans called a secret weapon. It was a magnetic mine. Magnetic mines operated on the principle that steel ships hold an amount of permanent magnetism. It's called the ship's magnetic signature.
Magnetic mines were cylindrical, larger than other mines, and they actually sat on the bottom. At the heart of the magnetic mine is a magnetic coil. It would actually sense or read the magnetic field of an approaching ship. And as the ship got close enough to pass a certain magnetic level or threshold, that would ignite the firing train in the mine, and then the mine would explode.
The ships most vulnerable to this weapon were the minesweepers.
Include it as part of the other building. This is our command offices are up here, and this is where we store some of the...
Here at the Fleet Diving Unit Atlantic in Halifax, Canada, Chris Deere shows Mike and John an example of a magnetic mine. This diffused magnetic mine casing is one that was made in the shape and with the mechanics of a torpedo. Deploying the magnetic mines with a submarine was just one of the ways these mines were set.
Torpedo tubes. It gives you one more covert option of laying the mines. This is an example of a typical ground mine, bottom influence mine. This particular one is post-Second World War, but it's very similar to the characteristics that would have been used during the Second World War. It's one technology beyond that. This particular mine is submarine laid by the lugs here, but it's capable of being surface laid and also laid from aircraft. The high explosive end would be here, and the busy end, in other words, the actuation devices would be at this end. During the Second World War, the multi-mines would have a coil rod through. They wouldn't have a separate electronic sort of detonation end to a mine. When you're magnetically minesweeping, unfortunately, you tow the minesweep, so you will in fact go through the water first, and you will go over the mine before your magnetic sweep will. And there's the critical moment that your own influence does not set off the mine.
Unfortunately for the minesweeper Eddy, her hull was made of metal, and so each time it went out at night to sweep the channels, it would be especially vulnerable to the many magnetic mines the Germans and Italians had laid. At last, all the preparations have been made. The team has arrived at the dive site and is ready to dive the wreck of the minesweeper HMS Eddy. As the team makes final preparations for the dive, Each diver finds their own way of relieving the stress of diving deep. Preparing for a deep dive is as much mental as it is physical.
Rick, the deco line is prepared.
Emmy reports that the decompression line is ready with oxygen bottles hung at predetermined depths. Sarah Carlton Gucci, a stills photographer, has joined the team for this dive. So has Paul Chiapra. Both are members of Deep 5. They too have years of deep diving experience. The team would use the dive plan one more time before going down. According to records, the Eddy lies at 55 meters or 180 feet deep. Deep dives have become a matter of course for this team. Chris needs a small adjustment to his regulator.
We need a 5/8.
It's a good thing you're a licensed auto mechanic.
He jokes about it, but having a regulator adjusted before making the deep dive adds to his stress. The team members talk safety and dive plan while they wait in the water. They talk just to talk, to distract their minds. Perhaps what they're feeling are butterflies from the excitement of diving this deep and significant wreck. Or perhaps the turning in the belly is from knowing that there will come a moment during descent when a diver hesitates at being separated from the surface beneath 55 meters or 180 feet of water. When a diver hesitates at not knowing what danger may lie among the blurry images on the bottom. The descent is slow and measured. Taking their time is a matter of safety, as it was for the Minesweeper Eddy 50 years ago. The deeper they go, the colder it gets. Visibility is more than 20 meters, or 66 feet. The divers approach the blasted ship. A blown wreck on the bottom, shattered like the lives of those who went down with her. Dave Godet positions himself directly above the wreck for a full-frame image of a ship at the bottom. Everett finds the ship's brass compass, which must have been blasted from the bridge. The wreck appears to be undisturbed. Scavenging divers would likely have taken the brass off this wreck and desecrated the wreck site. Twisted metal has a sinister look of having been tortured. Dave Harrison takes in the overall damage to the wreck. The stern hard on the bottom, the gunnels caved, deck gear unmanned, unmoving, a past moment, a still point in time. On May 26, 1942, Eddy had swept the channel that was mined the night before and was returning to Grand Harbor. There were 19 in the crew. Her crew were young men skilled at handling onboard cranes and the awkward electrical cables in the sweep lines. Most were Maltese sailors. These sailors had swept the same channel before. Now they were sweeping it again. Another night of white knuckles on the gunwale, of staring into the dark water and praying like hell that their ship would not touch off a mine. The minesweepers swept in pairs, the shipboard lights signaling back and forth, confirming their position in the sweep. They swept all that night and most of the following day, blowing one mine after the next. Each explosion chilling their blood. They finished sweeping the channel. On the way home, about a mile off St. Elmo Point, Eddy hit a mine. A blast hole on starboard side gaped open. The surviving crew splashed into the water and waited for rescue. The crew members of Eddy that died in the blast went down with the ship. Among those lost with the Eddy were 4 Maltese port workers: Salvatore Borg, Alfred Tabone, Carmel Basuto, and William Poulter. They were young men performing the most dangerous job in the harbor: minesweeping. Chris photographs the twisted remains of that tragic day. How ironic that Eddy and her crew were on their way home, calling themselves lucky after another night and day of minesweeping. Lucky until the dark waters erupted around them, their cries lost in the blast. These winches, which once groaned with the weight of the cable, are silent and still. A davit that once guided cables through the water is bent over the bow. From above, the wreck has the look of a scrap heap, with heavy deck gear strewn about and steel plates torn open like paper. Navigation gear lies strewn on the bridge, toppled in the blast or in the ship's hard plunge to the bottom. Brass gleams in the bright camera lights. The steering wheel must have been blown from this brass stand. Not far away is the brass telegraph of the bridge to notify the engine room to fire the boiler to full speed or slack off before entering a minefield. Everett signals that it's time to start the ascent. The minesweeper Eddy played a part during the war that was much bigger than her size. Mediterranean minesweepers cleared harbors for convoys and warships. Had they not kept open the supply lines into the Mediterranean ports, the outcome of the war may have been otherwise. The team ascends to the decompression stage. They have 30 minutes to wait and think. 30 minutes to reflect on the importance of the shipwreck they have just explored. The minesweeper, a workhorse during the war. A symbol of unheralded glory that advanced day and night into minefields without question. Those who sailed minesweepers were truly courageous men. They were the unsung heroes of the night.
And now it's your turn to get up off that couch and go into the deserts, go into the mountains, go under the lakes, the rivers, and the seas, and search for history. You'll never have a more rewarding adventure.
Join us again as we search the oceans of the world for lost and famous shipwrecks. Another true adventure with the Sea Hunters.